Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you happen to be watching this. I hope you're having a wonderful day. I want to make sure that I have people on the right track when it comes to talking about the worldview or the ideology or the stance that McDonald seems to be taking in his book, making sure that we are labeling it correctly and accurately. And I had a couple of people reach out and talk with me, and it seemed that they were heading in a direction that wasn't quite the direction that the book is going. And so I want to try to do my best to clear up any misconceptions that people might have going forward as they write the paper. As always, I'm just a guy trying to help my students in his class. All borrowed images and quoted text are used for educational purposes. I am not trying to make a buck. I am not monetizing this. This is recorded for students who miss my classes. I want to be very clear about what McDonald's book isn't, about what the superhero's journey isn't. And I'll begin with the phrase work to avoid political isms. I understand and I'm willing to agree with everybody that politics colors how a person views the world. Absolutely. However, this book is not necessarily political or economic. So if you're going to throw around terms like fascism or communism as political ideas, or if you're going to talk about economics like capitalism and socialism, that's not what this book's about. And I hope that if I make nothing else clear during this presentation, don't go political. Look at the preponderance of the evidence. Read the quotations carefully. For the vast majority of the quotations that we talked about in class, there's no politics, there's no economics. Second, look at the speakers and what they all share. Riccati's a motivational speaker. Toll's a spiritual teacher. Williamson is described as a spiritual leader. Adams is a spiritual teacher. We have a guru. We have a Sufi saint and spiritual master. We have a spiritual innovator. We have a mystic poet. And I didn't talk about Thoreau much in class, but we have a transcendentalist. And if I want to add Teilhard, we have a Catholic priest. We don't have politicians. We don't have political leaders. We don't have anything like that. They're described as motivational or spiritual or religious. They're not described any way as political. So let's look at what we can deal with at the spiritual or religious or motivational level. I want to remind you again to be careful of the isms. For example, some of you might say, well, it's spiritual, so we're just going to say spiritualism. Please remember that spiritualism is a system of beliefs or religious practice based on supposed communication with the spirits of the dead, especially through mediums. That never happened in this book. Not one single time did any of the Fantastic Four come in contact with the dead. They argued with each other. Nobody died. So we aren't busting ghosts here. We aren't doing any spiritualism at all. So let's take a look at maybe things that it might be. Striving to reach one's full potential through an eclectic mixture of concepts and practices drawn from Eastern mysticism, Hinduism, Buddhism, metaphysics, naturalism. We had a Hindu be quoted. The desire nothing idea certainly seems to be a part of Buddhism. We had metaphysical teachers. I think transcendentalism falls into a metaphysics. That might work. I don't know. And it's up to you to decide whether it works, but that's an option. One of the things I want to urge you, though, eclectic mixture is not the same as electric mixer. Please make sure you use the terms correctly. Second, is it a basis for moral values, an inspiring set of ideals, methods for dealing with life's harsher realities, a rationale for living life joyously, and an overall sense of purpose? We tried to avoid negativism. We've tried to make sure that we know exactly what we're doing and why we're doing it. You know, at the end, Doom was as happy as a schoolboy. That certainly sounds like living joyously. So perhaps it's this one. It might be take a look at, you know, finding out exactly what label goes with this definition. Or is it perhaps a highly individualized religious practice which draws from diverse spiritual traditions in order to create a unique form of religion that is acceptable to the individual? Again, where they quoted a Catholic priest, they quoted a transcendentalist, they quoted a Sufi mystic, they quoted a mystic poet, they quoted uh, some what I would consider Buddhist ideologies. Um, so Christianity was in there, Islam was in there, Buddhism was in there, Hinduism was in there. It's an eclectic mix, okay? And there's a lot of different spiritual traditions that were quoted from. Perhaps this one might work. And again, find out what this definition fits. Perhaps parts of this one fits. For example, should people be good, nice, and fair to each other as taught by the Bible and most world religions? We just went through, he's quoted people from a lot of the world religions, and certainly being good and nice and fair to each other was a big part of it. The whole idea of loving is to be, good and nice and fair. And certainly, it seems like we wanted people to feel good about themselves at the end of the book. If these two things fit, can we adapt this particular belief system to show how MacDonald might be doing it, even though he doesn't talk about God much or heaven or anything like that? Can we make this fit? Remember, you can adapt things to label it on your own. I'm going to urge you again, mix and match, have a bit of fun, but don't be disrespectful. So, for example, what do each of the following have in common, besides being in MacDonald's book, besides being spiritual or religious leaders? Williamson, Toll, Riccati, Cady, and Adams. Okay? All of them were pushed by Oprah Winfrey or are compared to Oprah Winfrey in some way or another. Williamson and Toll, in particular. Cady has been on the uh, broadcast a couple times. There's unique interviews or special interviews with her as well. So Oprah seems to be the guiding force behind all of these. So if you want to label, are they Oprahites? Are they Winfreyans? That certainly seems to be something you could make an argument for. I would prefer you use your own labels, not mine, yours. But I'm just giving you an example of a way to have a little fun. I don't think that's being disrespectful. There's certainly a link between all of them. Adams, I believe, is called the Canadian Oprah Winfrey or something similar to that. Think through all of that. To conclude this very quickly, the titles of my articles are here. I'll try to throw a couple of the links in the description box below. And stay away from the politicalisms. Be careful about any isms that you do put together. Okay? I should point out very quickly here as well that some people, for example, the American Humanist Association paints a good picture of humanism. The source for moral therapeutic deism and New Age spirituality don't necessarily uh, paint a good picture of those practices, but they give a definition that I think fits. And so you're more than free to use that definition without, just don't say that these sites support that thing. And then finally, at the end here, please remember the reaction should be completely and totally yours. I don't care what Albert Mohler thinks. I don't care what the American Humanist Association thinks. I don't care what any of these other places that I pulled the definitions from think. What I care is, what do you think about how we should react to the point of view that MacDonald brings in? I think that'll wrap this one up. If you have any questions, please ask, and I hope you're all in class the next class period.